If it's a Tuesday in the United States, then that probably means there was an election going on somewhere in this great big country that we have. An election yard is here because there were count them, five special elections on Tuesday, February 3rd. I will preface this by saying that not a single one of them was competitive, but there were some interesting things that happened in terms of overperformances and underperformances that has actually kind of bucked the trend a little bit, but we'll talk about what this means, if anything. So, like I said, there were five special elections. There was one in Alabama. There were four in New York. So we'll start with the one in Alabama and then we'll finish with New York. So the race that happened in Alabama, this was House District 38. This one is located in what looks like a pretty rural area. It is to the east of Auburn and Opelika. And this was a Republican seat before, and it will be a Republican seat again. So the victorious Republican in this seat was Kristen Nelson. She got just under 85% of the vote. Hazel Floyd, the Democrat, got 15%. We're not showing the swing here because there was no Democrat in the race last time, so the numbers would be a little bit skewed. But as you can see, the Republican here won by about 70 points. And now when we look at the overperformance screen that we do after most special elections, and again, we only show this screen after a competitive special election, meaning there has to be both a Republican and a Democrat in the race, because then otherwise you can't really make the comparison. But you can see in 2024, Donald Trump won this district by 42 points. The Republicans won it by almost 70 here, so a pretty significant GOP overperformance. So there have been two Republican overperformances so far in Alabama. And as you will see, there actually was also one in New York, although a very small one, but two big Republican overperformances in Alabama. So at least, if nothing else, the GOP brand is still doing pretty well down in Alabama. Before we move on to New York, we'll show you the standings currently in the Alabama House of Representatives with this election result tonight. The Republicans moving back up to 75 seats. The Democrats are at 29, and there is one vacancy. Now let's move over to New York. There were four special elections here. We'll go through them one at a time. So the first one we're going to talk about is Assembly District 36. So now this is not a map of New York State. It's a map of New York City. And you can see the blue there. This was a Democratic seat. Now you might not know the name of the person who won this election. We'll tell you in a minute, but I guarantee you've heard of the name of the person who held this assembly seat before tonight. And that person's name is Zoran Mamdani. Of course, he's now Mayor Mamdani, and Diana Moreno, the Democrat whom Mamdani endorsed, has won this seat. She ran against two minor party candidates. There was no Republican in this race. She got about 75% of the vote against two other candidates. Onward and upward, the Democrats go in this seat, so they hold on here. The next seat in New York we're going to show you is Assembly District 74. So this seat, it's not quite the Lower East Side. It's not quite the East Village. Some of the places you might see in this district include Gramercy, Kips Bay, and Tudor City. And fun fact, the UN headquarters is actually located in this district, which was Democratic before, and the Democrats will hold on to it. Keith Powers, the Democrat winning the seat, about 83% of the vote. Joseph Foley, the Republican, gets about 17. So we're not showing the swing in this one either because there was no Republican in the race last time, but the Democrat here winning by a very comfortable margin. And then when we look at the overperformance or underperformance, you see the Democrats won this seat by about 64. That was Kamala Harris doing that, and now about 66. So a small overperformance for the Democrats here of about 2.35%. So before we move on from the state assembly, let's talk about the current standings of the new state assembly. Given these two results, the Democrats will retake their 103 to 47 two-thirds supermajority in the chamber. They were at 101 before, so they did have a supermajority, but now they're back up to 103, and there are no vacancies at present. And now we move up from the state assembly in New York to the state senate, but we stay in Manhattan. Senate District 47, previously a Democratic seat, had a special election on February 3rd. So this seat, it's on the west side of Manhattan. You'll see the Upper West Side, Chelsea, Hell's Kitchen, places like that in here. And very randomly, part of Central Park is in this district, but for whatever reason, not all of it. And this district, given the places that I just listed off, was the best Democratic performance of the night, which probably is not going to be much of a surprise to anybody. But even at that, there was a swing to the Democrats here when the Democrats were already above 80%. Eric Botcher won this seat, 92.4%. Charlotte Friedman, bit of a tough night for her, 7.6%. There was about an 8.5% swing to the Democrats, as the Democrats won the seat by almost 85 points. And you can imagine that even in a seat like this, that would result in a Democratic overperformance, and it was actually kind of a big one. So Kamala Harris won the seat by about 71 points last time, and the Democrats winning it tonight by about 85. So that's about a 14-point Democratic overperformance there. So the final seat in New York that we're going to talk about, this is Senate District 61. This is out in Western New York. So some of the places that you would see in it, there are parts of the city of Buffalo in there, as well as Tonawanda, Amherst, and Grand Island. So this was the most competitive race on the board by far. And even at that, the Democrats won it by about 20 points. Jeremy Zellner, the new state senator there, getting just a hair under 60% of the vote. Dan Gagliardo, the Republican, getting just a hair over 40% of the vote. There was a small swing to the Republicans, though the Democrats winning it by about 20. And you see with that small swing to the Republicans, there actually was a very slim Republican overperformance that was almost exactly the same as the swing here. So the Democrats doing just a tiny bit worse, the Republicans doing a little bit better than in the 2024 presidential election. So a Republican overperformance of a little under 2 points. And now with these two state Senate results, we'll look at the current standings. In the New York State Senate, the Democrats, a 41-22 majority in the chamber. The Democrats 1 seat short of having a 2/3 majority in that chamber. So now what we'll do is we'll look at the special election standings through state legislative elections through February 3rd, which is the day we recorded this. So the Democrats have won 14 special elections. Republicans have won 4, but the number that matters the most here is a Democratic gain of 1, a Republican loss of 1. Of course, that Democratic gain was Senate District 9 out in Texas a few days ago. And now we'll look at the overperformance versus underperformance screen. The Democrats have overperformed their presidential election results in 13 districts so far. The Republicans now in 3, 2 of which were in Alabama. And 2 of them we say are indeterminate because we can only determine if there was an overperformance or underperformance if there was both a Republican and a Democrat running in the race. So in 2 of the races so far, that has not been the case. So we can't make a determination one way or another. You can see the Republicans finally ticked up from 1. They were sitting at 1 for a little while. Now they're up to 3, but you still got 13 Democratic overperformances so far. So I would say that even though, for example, the Democrats would have probably hoped not to underperform so badly, for example, in Alabama, even though Alabama is a tough place for them. But you know what? If you're the Democrats, you can't win them all. And then as for the one out in Western New York, it was a very small one. So I don't know that the Democrats are necessarily going to be worried about it. This is a seat that they were going to probably hold one way or another. Now, if it were a closer race than this, it were a more competitive race, I don't know, maybe they'd have some feelings about it. But it was pretty close. The Democratic number in that seat was very, very close to what Kamala Harris got in 2024. So I don't think they're going to be freaking out about that one too much. But otherwise, onward and upward we go, and we're going to just continue to watch these trends in these special elections because you see the 13-3 with 2 indeterminate right now. We're going to just see over the months how those numbers change. If the Democrats just continue to expand that lead, then I think you're going to see Republicans continue to worry about the midterm elections, which of course are coming up in about 9 months now. So just keep watching the trends with us at Election Yard. Like and subscribe. Follow us on social media. We'll see you soon.